Hello and welcome to Coast AM. I am Lisa Garr and so happy to be with you tonight. You have no idea. Welcome to 1111. For those of us on the West Coast, those on the East Coast have advanced to 1112. It's great to be with you nevertheless. Tonight we're talking about, in the beginning of the hour, we're talking about how ancient history shows us that sacred spaces have been created forever. I mean, there have been altars and shrines that honor and people or past loved ones, or maybe even invoke spirits, or you can set intentions. These spaces have been used historically to show devotion and ask for many, many different things. So tonight we're talking about these sacred spaces in the form of something called Vastu Shastra. It is the primary system of sacred architecture used in India for more than 7,000 years. And my guests are Michael and Robin Mastro, and they are the foremost practitioners of Vastu Shastra in North America. We're going to find out more about this, also called Yoga for the Home, in a little bit, right after the break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast AM. I am Lisa Garr, and I forgot to mention that it is Veterans Day weekend, and thank you so much to all of our wonderful people in service. They have always been my heroes, and my dad was also a veteran, so it's a great time to celebrate that. So we are talking about tonight, in the first 2 hours here, about how ancient history has shown us that sacred spaces of altars and shrines have been created. We see them in cemeteries, to honor those who have passed or to invoke spirits in many ways. And these are intentional spaces, and they have been used historically, but they can also be used in the home. And these types of altars or sacred spaces or arrangement of the space has been known. You've maybe heard of Feng Shui, the ancient Chinese art of placement. Well, Vastu Shastra is what we're talking about tonight, and that is a primary system of sacred architecture used in India for more than 7,000 years. And joining us tonight are two wonderful people. They are the foremost practitioners of Vastu Shastra in North America, Michael and Robin Mastro, and they have, not only are they here to explain how this could help our homes and our lives and our environments, but they have conducted this wonderful art of Vastu Shastra in corporations such as Microsoft and World Bank and Amazon and NASA and thousands of homes, individual homes. So welcome. I'll say hi to Michael Mastro first. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Lisa.
Great. It's great to hear you. Yes. And then Robin, hello. Welcome.
Hi. It's been a long time, but it's great to hear your voice.
It sure has. It's wonderful. I saw Michael recently, and Robin, I know that you've got a new book coming out. I'm really excited. It's absolutely beautiful, about altars, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, I want to see if maybe you could explain a little bit, Michael, I'll start with you, about what Vastu Shastra is, and tell me a little bit about how you got involved in it.
So I was very fortunate as a young architect to meet Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the Beatles guru, when I was very young, and I listened to his lecture and came up and talked to him afterwards, and he mentioned that he wanted me to come and design some buildings in Rishikesh, India. And it was there at his feet that I learned about Vastu. And Vastu means building, and Shastra is science. It is the science of building. And as you said, it comes from an ancient body of knowledge called the Vedas that's 7,000 to 10,000 years old. And in this part of the Vedas called the Athara Veda, we find all the self-help type sciences, yoga and meditation, and the science of astrology called Jyotish, and Ayurveda, the science of healing, and Vastu Shastra. And in fact, Vastu and Jyotish and Ayurveda are sister sciences. They're very interconnected, and they were created to help us to heal ourselves, to reduce stress in our life so that we can utilize our full potential, to have good health, to have good careers, to have harmony in our relationships, and prosperity in our lives.
How does space conduct something like that? I mean, I think that it has been used historically, and you do write a little bit about it, Robin, in Altars of Power and Grace. How does what we do in our space physically impact the energy in our lives historically? How does that work?
Well, I think if you look at the human body, we are electromagnetic tuning forks. Our bodies are magnetic. Our blood is magnetic. Our nervous system is electric, and we are wired to work efficiently in certain environments. And in nature, all 5 elements, earth, air, fire, water, and space, are in harmony. And you feel that when you're at the beach or you're near a waterfall. You feel really wonderful and refreshed. But sometimes when we are in our home, we feel just the opposite. And that is because one or more of the 5 elements is out of place. Mm. And what Vastu does is that it can energetically and very subtly change the energy in an environment. And the way we know how to utilize it is that we don't do any remodeling or demolition. We do it in a way that is very, very subtle, but our physiology feels it. And once we feel the harmony, the stress in our lives is reduced, so we can think more clearly, act more effectively, be more productive.
Mm. It's exactly right. So you don't have to remodel or change walls, or although flow is important, you can actually adjust that by putting various elements around the trouble centers of a house or an office or anywhere in your life, even wearing it on your body. You can wear various artifacts that help change the weaknesses into the body into strengths. And I have to ask about the history of this, though. How was all of this discovered? And 7,000 years is a long time to develop this. So, Michael, maybe you could share with us a little bit about that history.
So, the Vedas were cognized by ancient rishis who were in deep meditation and who observed the workings of the universe, and they wrote this sacred knowledge down about how the 5 elements impact our physiology and the environment, and how it makes us feel, and how to live in harmony with nature, basically. And that's what Vastu is all about. It's aligning your physical body and your home or your office, which is the body of your body, to 2 forces of nature: the positive solar energy that comes from the east and the magnetic energy that comes from the north. And when you align yourself to these 2 forces of nature, then nature supports all your endeavors, your health and your career, etc. So it's about aligning with all the forces of nature. And in Vastu, we design buildings that are in harmony with nature. And most architects don't know about this knowledge, and so that's where we come in to change the energy flow when things are out of balance. And most people have had the experience of walking into a house. Maybe it's a very, very expensive house or beautiful house, but for some reason they don't feel comfortable and don't feel like staying very long. And that's because one or more of those 5 elements are out of balance.
Mm. Now, can you give us an example of maybe a corporation that you went into that you changed the energy on using Vastu Shastra? Is there a story that you have maybe that shows the before and after of it?
So I was very fortunate after I learned about this science in India, and when I came back, I was on the design team for the first Microsoft building and in Redmond, Washington, or Bellevue, or Redmond.
Okay.
And it got to utilize this knowledge that I had learned. And later, I utilized this knowledge for Amazon and Intel and several corporations to go into existing buildings and improve the energy flow so people could be more productive.
What did you do specifically, or how did you change it?
So we utilize little energy machines. They're called yantras, which is a physical representation of a mantra or sound. And it's based on the principle that Einstein set out, that if you can match the frequency of something that's already in balance, for example, the 5 elements being in balance, in a specific little energy machine, then you can improve that energy flow. It's like you were saying earlier about wearing certain things, like people who understand how energy flows in the body, like a chiropractor or like someone who does massage or an acupuncturist. They know you are experiencing some pain in the body or a headache, and you go to someone who does acupuncture. They know that some meridian or mama point is blocked in the body, and they place a needle there to free up that energy so that it can flow in the body, and then you have less pain and your headache goes away. Same thing we're doing with a house. We locate where the energy is getting stuck due to poor placement of toilets or different fixtures in the house. And we place this energy machine there to get the energy moving. And when I say energy machine, it's something very, very small and inconspicuous. Nobody but you will know it's there.
Like a sticker or something that has the yantra on it, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So interesting. And let's talk a little bit about that, like in people's homes where you have water, toilets that are flowing constantly. Is that representative of money or wealth, or is there specific ways to keep the doors shut or something like that that can prevent the outflow of water constantly? Robin, maybe you could speak to that.
Well, there's different kinds of water energy. There's the polluted water from the toilet, and then there is water from a fountain or water that you put in your bath or your sink. So the different quality of energy matters. So in a bathroom, that is, let's say the bathroom is not placed in an area of the home that is supportive of that water element. And let's say you have a bathroom in the southeast, which is actually the home of the fire element. Well, water and fire, they don't mix. Water puts fire out. And so it reduces the passionate, healthy energy that you get from the southeast. So if your toilet is placed in that area, it's going to cause problems. It's going to cause problems in your house. And it's difficult to renovate a house and move the bathroom from that area to another area.
Right.
So what we have developed through being the guinea pigs for all the work that we've done over the last 30 years is that we've figured out how to utilize these small energetic devices to eliminate the stress that's causing that imbalance without having to move that bathroom. And it, what we call, rectifies that so that the stress is reduced and the issue of the water being in the wrong place is alleviated. It's alleviated energetically, even though you haven't removed that bathroom that's poorly placed.
So is there, for people that don't know exactly going through the directions right now, is there something that everyone should do where it comes to keeping the door shut, or something around places of water, or maybe putting the intentional water in the house, like a fountain or something that's more intentional in or around the house?
The water element is at home in the northeast area of the house. So it's kind of the area that when you have it properly placed, it brings abundance into the home.
You can use one of those compasses on your phone. There's
you can use
compass
the compass.
apps. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an easy way to figure out the directions where your house, the rooms in your house, and how your house is laid out, or where your apartment is, or your dorm room. It's very easy that way to figure out where places like the bathroom and the kitchen and the water heater and the electrical outlet and the things that really affect our physiology, where they're located. And certain elements, when they're not located in their proper place, create dis-ease in the body. And so over time, those that imbalance can create issues with health, issues with your relationships, issues with you being able to focus and feel good in your space, issues with your ability to create prosperity and abundance for you and your family. And we've kind of figured this out to the point where when people come to us with issues, and usually we don't talk to people unless they have something going on.
Right.
So when they come to us and they tell us, oh, we're having, we just moved into this place and we really, really love it, but oh my God, we're fighting more, and I haven't been able to sleep, and we can figure out why, and we can change that. So what we do corrects that stress that is caused by what we were talking about. Maybe there's no windows in an area where you need a lot of that solar magnetic energy coming in, or there's a door in the southwest, which is your stability, and you shouldn't be coming in through that door, but that's your front door. And what does it do? It creates kind of instability and in the relationship, and usually with the head of the household. So there's things that we know how to do to fine-tune any environment, so you're not having to remodel or
right
move.
Constantly. So if you take on the phone, there's usually an app that's a compass app. They're free, and you can go into you said the northeast corner of your home, and that's where you should not have water, right?
No, that's where you should have water.
You should have water. Okay.
That is the confluence of the solar and magnetic energy that feeds your physiology. You want that energy to be stimulated, and water, moving water in that area, like a little fountain, or outside your house, if you have like a little fountain inside your house, a bubbler, or like a bubbler fountain kind of thing, or even a bowl of water. Any form of water really helps enliven that element. I mean, that is a very basic thing you can do, but it does work. And if you have a fireplace in the north, it's not the best placement for the fireplace. And so we don't want, it's like the placement for your abundance. All your abundance comes in. That's the magnetic, juicy energy that you need to really build your prosperity. And if you light a fire in that area, you're burning it up, right? So you want to maybe, instead of use that fireplace, you could put things in that area like plants or things that are green, that enliven that vibration of abundance. And and not use that, because you're burning up your money when you're setting that fire. So little tips like that really help on a very basic level, help you realize that the energy in your environment does affect you. It does have impact on your health, your relationships, your finances, and your career. Those are just the basic kind of things. But it also, very specifically, when there are specific types of imbalances, we can tell what kind of illness or what kind of frustration or
Right.
issue is coming up for you just by looking at the floor plan of your home.
Fascinating. All right. Well, we're going to continue with this conversation when we come back. Later on, we're going to take some calls also when you could ask some questions about your specific house to see what's going on. I'll share one of my stories as well. So we will be back with Robin and Michael Mastro. I am Lisa Garr, and you're listening to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast AM. I am Lisa Garr, and my guests tonight are Michael and Robin Mastro, and they are foremost practitioners of Vastu Shastra in North America. And this is basically, if it's an ancient system, 7,000 to 10,000 years it's been used in India. And here it is basically if you have an issue going on in your home or your workspace, or if you want to eliminate blocks to productivity and so forth, there are ways that you can organize or block certain energy that you don't want and bring in energy that you do want. And they have books on Vastu Shastra that one of them is absolutely beautiful. It's called Altars of Power and Grace. And it is, you can find all of this at vastucreations.com. Robin, I'm going to ask you first about some of the altars. What have you recognized if somebody has issues maybe in a workspace? And can you set up tiny little altars in your workspace that can help harmony or creativity or productivity or abundance come into a workspace?
Yes, and what's interesting is there's something you said in the very beginning when you were introducing what we were talking about today or tonight, and that is altars have been around for thousands and thousands of years, and they've been used in all kinds of religions and all kinds of cultures. And I think that in the West, in our kind of culture in the United States, unless you come from that sort of tradition, it isn't kind of something that we know about. We don't utilize altars in the same way as you see in Europe or in Mexico or South America or India or in Bali or Thailand, where people really honor the unseen forces in their lives. And I spent many years traveling around and studying these ancient systems of honoring the unseen, and I realized that here we kind of lack the understanding of that we're connected to something larger than ourselves, our bodies, our families, our country. We're connected to things that we can't see but actually do have impact on our life every day. And the altars that I've developed are based on my graduate work in whole systems design. And they are based on the science of Vastu, which had never been done before I started researching this. And I brought this premise to my graduate committee. The question is, what would happen in people's lives if I did this? Because Michael and I had just been in India, and we had been traveling throughout India, and we had seen sacred ceremonies done in all over India, and we'd been to Bali and watched how beautifully the Balinese honor the divine.
Yes.
And I started building altars using the premise of Vastu, where the elements are in a very specific place. And it basically created a microcosm of the universe in perfect order in small sacred spaces. And I did this for my friends and my family. They didn't know what I was doing. They just went along with it, trying to humor me. And their lives started changing, and some in the most incredible ways.
Well, it's very, very common where you see them in cemeteries, basically tombstones or altars, memorializing those who have passed. On the side of the road where an accident occurred, an altar will exist to memorialize the space on the site of the accident. You see them everywhere. When we were in Bali, there was dear friend had an accident on the beach, and instantly the Balinese people surrounded the accident with prayer boxes that they made out of the palm fronds to ward off the evil spirits that might have come in during that accident. And it worked because our wonderful friend is still alive today. And so they are everywhere in our world, everywhere in every culture. Altars are used. But I'm curious, is there certain elements on the altar, Michael, maybe you could answer this, that if anyone were to go create one today, what would they go grab right now?
Well, what we're doing when we're creating an altar based in the Vedic tradition, which is the tradition where Vastu Shastra comes from, we are representing the elements in directions, because Vastu is a directional science. And we place the elements in their proper place by creating an altar. And the items we put on the altar are symbolic of those elements. So like water would go in the northeast. That is the home of the water element. You place like a small cup of water there. Air goes in the northwest. You place a small fan or a feather or even incense.
Okay.
Something that represents air. Some people, they have like a small bell, because that sound is part of, it goes through the air. In the southeast, as I had said before, is the home of the fire element. A candle is what we use to symbolize that energy, that fiery, passionate, vital energy filled with vitality that is representative of the southeast. In the southwest is the earth element. It's the grounding force. It's the stabilizing force in our lives. And there we put a plant or a crystal, or some people use a bowl of uncooked rice. Some people they add whatever supports or symbolizes to them something from the earth, leaves or bark from a tree, or I've even had people put a little bowl of dirt that they get in their backyard, something of the earth. So, and in the center, so you basically have created a square. And in the center is the space element. This is where you place your intention of what it is you want. And that's a plate. We call it an offering tray. It's a place where you connect your intention with the divine, the unseen forces that support our dreams and our desires. Because so often what we do is that we know exactly what we don't want, but we really don't ask for what we do want.
Right.
And this is a way of creating a ceremony of intention. And it is like alerting that energy that we are serious about this, that we're not complaining, but we're asking for help. We're asking for support. And then when we ask, we let go. We allow that energetic field that we've created through placement and ceremony and asking for our needs to be met, and then we let it go and we let it work. It's like you plant a seed. You don't start digging in to see what's going on with the root system of that seed. You trust that it's going to come up.
Well, at the same time, how do you, and Michael, if you could answer, how do you remove something you don't want? I mean, when there's something really unwanted, because apparently our house is built on top of a deep well, like way, way below us. So there's constant flow happening in our house. What do you do for something like that? Or if someone's maybe trying to clear a house from somebody who's passed away in the house or something like that, how do you remove energy?
So you introduce, as I was saying before, this idea from Einstein. You create a frequency by whatever means, music or intention, or we use these particularly yantras or an altar. Create a frequency of where all 5 elements are in balance, and that will overshadow or supersede any of the negativity. So you're introducing light into the darkness. Frequency
Makes sense.
of harmony or balance will block the negative energies from coming in.
Okay, so could you, and it's not just a matter of lighting a candle, it has to be in a specific area of the house or office or where there would be flow, right?
Yeah, it's like Robin was saying. There are specific. If you divide your house into 4 equal squares, the northeast is associated with the water element, and the water element has to do with growth in your life, financial, prosperous growth, and the fire element in the southeast has to do with energy, the energy of vitality. If for some reason there's a toilet or something in the southeast, that's water reducing fire, and it's draining your energy, your vital health, healing energies. And then the southwest is the earth element, and that's anything that supports you, from your physical structure to how you support your family, your career. And the northwest is the air element, and the air element has to do with our mind, our emotions, our speech, our actions. And if the air element is in balance, we have harmonious thoughts and harmonious actions. And if it's out of balance for some reason, there can be some disharmony in our actions, and this creates stress in our relationships. If you're not communicating clearly, or if there's disharmony in your speech, then there would be some stress in relationships. So all these 4 areas of life really get addressed in Vastu by balancing the elements in each direction. And as Robin was saying, just adding some moving water in the northeast will support that water element. Adding like a Himalayan salt lamp in the southeast will support the fire element. Adding plants in the southwest will support the earth element. And some kind of chimes or something like that in the northwest will support the air element.
It's interesting. So, sometimes things are placed in the house for beauty or a fountain or something, and you don't even realize where it's being placed without studying it first. But I do have a question about if somebody were to pass away in the house, how do you rebalance or clear the energy? I guess it has to be noted. If you're to sell a house that somebody passed away in, it has to be noted on the sales documents. Is there a way to maybe clear spirits from a house? What if a house is haunted?
Yes, this comes up in our work quite a lot. There are certain sounds that you can chant that will introduce, light into the darkness. And so oftentimes when someone dies, they get stuck, and that they need to be drawn to the light and coaxed or talked to let go of where they are and move on into the light. And that's what certain types of chants that have been a part of every culture. Some people use sage and do some chanting. Some people use incense and move around the house in a clockwise manner to purify the atmosphere. And this chanting, again, is creating that frequency of harmony so that anyone who's stuck can move on.
Okay. So is there a way that we could look that up, or something that you have that could help us with that, especially if there's a haunted house?
Yeah, so one mantra that's very, very powerful is Om Namah Shivaya. The 5 elements are actually related to the syllables in this particular mantra. She is related to the earth element. Va is related to the water element.
Okay.
Each of those syllables relates to the different elements, and when you chant that mantra, it balances the 5 elements and brings them into harmony in the physical body and in the environment, and that will lift any stuck energies, including someone who's died, to move on.
Om Na Va Shanaya, right? Om Na Va Shanaya. Okay.
Namah Shivaya.
Okay. Shivaya. Okay. And so if you, and we're going to take calls at the beginning of next hour, but if you have a question or something about your house that has energy that needs to be moved or stuck or brought in or something like that, you could, of course, ask questions to Michael and Robin Mastro. So you'll give us a call at the top of the hour. But in the meantime, these types of chants move energy. Music, does music also move energy?
Yes, harmonious music. You know, Dr. Emoto is a very famous scientist in Japan who studied the frequency of sound and how it affects the molecules in water. We are made of 80% water, our body, and we're very, very affected by sound and frequency. And he would do these experiments where he would chant certain mantras or certain sounds, or just even, they had this experiment in school for kids where they would fill 2 jars with rice and water, and they would put love on one jar and hate on the other jar, and see what would happen over time. And the jar with hate written on it would start to mold after a couple of weeks, and whereas the jar with love on it, the rice would start to sprout and grow. So it's very interesting, how these sounds affect our physiology and the environment.
I would love to know a story where maybe one time when you had to actually go in and remove a being or an entity or something like that. Have you ever had a very intense situation like that?
Yeah, I have lots of clients where they feel certain things in the environment that are happening that are completely out of their control, and they're definitely concerned that there is some kind of an entity there. And after we do what we do, which is called the sacred ceremony or puja, that completely clears the energy in the environment. And it's very powerful, and they would report back to me just in a few hours.
Oh.
They feel such relief that this, whatever was creating this disharmony in their environment has now moved on.
It would clear. That's fantastic. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue with Michael and Robin Mastro from Vastu Shastra Creations. And we'll also take your calls. So we'll be right back. I'm Lisa Garr. You're listening to Coast AM.